There are people who don't need to say much to make an impact. They enter a place and something changes. The air becomes heavy. The silence increases. Glances avert. And even without exactly understanding why, those around them feel it. They feel discomfort. They feel restlessness. And often, they feel fear. This video is for you who have already noticed this, but never knew how to explain it. Why do some people distance themselves from you? Why do your opinions bother others, even when you are not trying to convince anyone? And why, in so many moments of your life, have you had to deal with rejection, exclusion, or that feeling of always being in the right place, but at the same time, out of place? Today we are going to talk about the chosen, but not with mysticism, not with ready-made phrases. Let's get straight to the point. Why do the chosen disturb so much? And the answer is not in appearance, status, or what you have. It's in who you are, and in what your existence awakens in others. The chosen have a presence that reveals, that exposes what others prefer to hide. Not because they point fingers, but because their mere presence shows the contrast between what is true and what is facade. And that destabilizes. You never needed to explain yourself, but still you were judged. You never needed to impose yourself, but you were feared. And do you know why? Because you represent a kind of strength that cannot be manipulated. This video is about that, about what lies behind this disguised rejection, about the real reason for the discomfort, and most importantly, about how to deal with this without losing yourself. If you have felt seen up to this point, don't leave before the end. What I have prepared will help you see what is really going on. And perhaps for the first time, everything will begin to make sense. My name is George, and if this content truly delivers value to you, if it translates what you live without beating around the bush, then subscribe to the channel. Here, the idea is not to grow in numbers, but to deepen what truly matters, your clarity about who you are and the role you came to fulfill. The discomfort that your presence causes. It's not always possible to explain what happens when you arrive, but those nearby feel it. The conversation changes tone. Some people look sideways. Others try to disguise an unease they don't even know where it comes from. It's as if your presence stirs the environment. And indeed, it does. It's not about what you say. Most of the time, you don't even need to open your mouth. It's also not about clothes, appearance, or status. The matter goes much deeper. It's your energy that impacts the way you occupy the space, how you see what's around you. That alone already creates discomfort in many people. You don't try to impress. You don't force any pose. But still, you provoke reactions. Because there's something in you that reveals what is hidden. It's as if, just by being there, you expose what others prefer to conceal. And that, of course, is uncomfortable. Because most people don't want to deal with their own conflicts. You function like a mirror, but it's not an ordinary mirror. You reflect parts that many want to keep buried. Insecurities, lies, unresolved decisions. When you appear, those parts come to the surface. And that scares people. But the fear is not actually of you. It's of what you awaken. It's as if your mere existence puts others face to face with everything they pretend not to see. They can't explain it, so they find it easier to create distance. They avoid, they criticize, they judge. But deep down, what they feel is discomfort. Not because you are bad, but because your presence forces them out of their comfort zone. You notice the tensions, the forced conversations, the sideways glances. You've gotten used to it, and no matter how much you try to fit in or soften your presence, there's always someone who reacts negatively. Not because you did something wrong, but because you are different, and that difference has weight. Some people will say it's just spite, that you are too serious, too strange, too closed off. But deep down, even they don't know why they feel uneasy. They just feel it. They sense that you don't join the game, that you don't mold yourself to please. And that in itself is a threat to those who live by appearances. You don't need to make an effort. Your energy speaks before any words. It reveals. And the truth, when it appears, is not always well received. It's easier to attack the messenger than to look at what the message shows. That's why many times, being yourself seems lonely. But it's not weakness. It's a sign of strength. Being in this role is not easy. It requires balance. It requires awareness. Because you notice what others ignore. And feeling too much, seeing too much can be exhausting. But it's precisely this perspective that makes you who you are. This sensitivity that seems like a burden is in fact a gift. It's not your fault if others feel uncomfortable. And it's also not your responsibility to soften who you are to please. What you carry is rare. And what is rare is usually not understood immediately. If at any moment you felt that your presence disrupts, that it's better to hide, remember this. It's not you who is wrong. The discomfort you cause is simply the reflection of the truth you represent, and not everyone is ready to deal with that. The power that cannot be explained. There are people who spend their lives trying to be noticed. You do not. You never needed that, and yet, people perceive you. It's as if there is something in you that no one can name, but everyone feels. A type of presence that occupies space effortlessly. Your power does not come from what you show. It comes from what you carry. It's in your silences, in your attentive gaze, in your choices. While many try to attract attention with noise, you move calmly. And even so, it is impossible to ignore your presence. You sense when someone is lying. You notice when something is out of place, even if no one has said a word. It's as if your soul has antennas, picking up what others do not see. This sensitivity, which seems strange to others, is a kind of radar, a rare gift that you didn't even ask for, but possess. And that scares people. Because we live in a world where it's easier to pretend, where people wear masks all the time. And then you arrive, and even in silence, the masks begin to fall. Not because you want to expose anyone, but because your presence does not blend with falsehood. Some people try to laugh at you. They call you exaggerated. They label you as weird, closed off, too intense. But deep down, they know. They know that you see things they try to hide. They know that you cannot lie in front of you without feeling a certain discomfort. You perceive what lies behind the pretty speech, and that bothers them a lot, because they cannot control you. You do not bend for acceptance. You do not change your opinion just to please. And this kind of autonomy disturbs those who constantly shape themselves to be accepted. It is easier to say that you are the problem than to admit that they are living a lie. You do not need to explain your worth. You do not need to shout to be heard, because what you carry goes beyond what is visible. And this type of silent strength is rare. That's why they confuse it. That's why they misinterpret you. Because they do not understand how someone can be so firm without being aggressive. There is a type of authority that comes from the soul that cannot be learned through titles or positions. It's the kind that arises from what you have lived, from what you have faced, from what you have quietly overcome. That is your strength. And it does not depend on anyone's approval. You do not need to prove anything. You just need to keep being yourself. And that is already more than enough to make an impact, to transform, and often to disturb. Because those who cannot stand being truly seen will try to discredit those who can see beyond appearances. Many will not understand. They will judge. They will try to diminish your sensitivity, as if it were a weakness. But you know how much you have needed to be strong, to continue being who you are. How much you have had to rebuild yourself in silence, while others did not even notice. Your power cannot be explained, because it does not fit into words. It is presence. It is essence. It is something that cannot be taught, bought, or copied. You either have it, or you don't, and you have it. The rejection disguised as judgment. Have you ever noticed how some people make a point of belittling you, even without reason? As if they are always ready to criticize you, correct you, or make jokes at your expense. This doesn't happen because you are wrong. The truth is that your presence confronts, and the easiest way to deal with that is by attacking. When someone does not understand your essence, they tend to label you. They call you stuck up, arrogant, too different. But deep down, these words are just an attempt to redirect the focus. Because if they stop to look closely, they will have to face parts of themselves that they prefer to ignore. The criticism becomes a defense mechanism. Exclusion becomes a form of relief. It's more comfortable to put you as the weirdo of the group than to admit that you have something they cannot explain, and that they might even wish to have. This disguised rejection is silent. It doesn't scream, but it hurts. It shows up in little comments, in the laughter between the lines, in the invitations that never arrive. And gradually you begin to realize that, even when present, you are always on the periphery. Many people think the problem is that you are too serious, too intense, too reserved. But is the discomfort really in you? Or in the way you reveal what others hide? The truth is that your authenticity threatens. You do not pretend. You do not adapt for convenience. You do not play the social game to be accepted. And this disturbs those who base their identity on the validation of others. Your freedom becomes an affront to those who live trapped by appearances. You never needed to raise any flags. Just the fact of being who you are already causes discomfort. Because you walk with truth. And where there is truth, everything false begins to tremble. They will try to fit you into stereotypes. They will twist your words, interpret your gestures as arrogance, turn your actions against you. All of this is a defense mechanism. Because if they invalidate you, they don't have to listen to you. If they label you, they don't have to understand you. But exclusion is not always a curse. In many cases, it's protection. You were not made to mix with any kind of energy. And this painful separation is often what preserves your light. Being outside certain circles is what allows you to maintain your clarity. Not every environment deserves your presence. Not every table deserves your opinion. And this is not arrogance, it's discernment. Being rejected can hurt, but it also reveals. It shows who is really willing to walk with you without fear of your depth. It shows who can see you without wanting to mold you. Over time, you begin to realize that you were not set aside by chance. You were guided toward a more aligned path. The pain of exclusion, in fact, was the push that freed you from environments where you would have to diminish yourself to be accepted. It's not easy to deal with this, but don't forget, the judgment they make of you is almost never about you. It's about what you represent, about the reflection you provoke, about the discomfort of being close to someone who does not need to pretend. Continue being whole. Continue walking with truth, because the rejection of many will be the confirmation that you are on the right path. Not always being accepted is a sign that you are doing the right thing, and not always being rejected is a sign of error. The internal conflict of the chosen. Not everyone sees, but behind the firmness that you carry, there are difficult days. Days when you ask yourself if it really makes sense to continue. Because being chosen does not mean always being well. It means feeling a lot, perceiving too much, and often carrying all of this in silence. It's not the kind of fatigue that the body can resolve. It's something deeper. It's a weariness that comes from an excess of perception. From seeing what no one else sees, from feeling what no one admits, from trying to maintain your essence in a world that insists on molding you. Sometimes you just want to give up, to pretend that you don't notice, to ignore how you feel, just to try to live like everyone else. Because it's not easy to bear the weight of seeing the truth, while everyone around chooses to live in a lie. There are moments when you ask yourself, is there something wrong with me? Because the more you try to be true, the more it seems to bother others. And then doubt begins. The conflict begins. The internal struggle begins between being who you are and trying to be what others expect of you. But every time you try to adapt, something inside you goes quiet. A part dims. Because you know you were not born to be like this. You were not called to be just another one. You came with a mission. And even without understanding everything, you feel that call inside. The problem is that no one talks about how lonely this can be. How you, even surrounded by people, can feel completely out of place, as if you have awakened in a world where everyone else is still asleep. And trying to wake others sometimes feels like an impossible mission. You try to help, you try to guide, you try to show. But often you are seen as the strange one, the exaggerated one, the complicated one. And this hurts. Not because you want applause, but because it's exhausting to be misinterpreted when the intention has always been to contribute. The truth is that being chosen requires courage, but it also requires patience. Patience to understand that not everyone is ready. Patience to wait for the right timing of things. And patience with yourself. Because even you sometimes have difficulty dealing with this sensitivity that you carry. This internal conflict is not a sign of weakness. It's part of the process. It's within this silent struggle that you strengthen yourself. You mature. You discover how far you can go without losing yourself. The pain you feel is not useless. It refines you. It molds you from the inside out. You are not an ordinary person. And the journey of someone who is not ordinary will never be too light, but it is also never in vain. Gradually, you will realize that you are not broken. You are under construction, that it is not wrong to feel so much. It is rare, that it is not weakness to question yourself. It's part of growth, because those who never question, never evolve. And no matter how difficult it seems today, there will come a moment when all of this will make sense. You will look back and understand why you needed to go through all of this. Because every conflict, every doubt, every pain was preparing you. You are not strange. You are profound. And not everyone knows how to deal with depth. But you do. And no matter how much it hurts, no matter how exhausting it is, you know that you cannot and should not hide. The intuition that goes beyond the obvious. You feel before you know. You perceive before you understand. While many need to see to believe, you simply feel. And this feeling guides you. Even when everything around you says otherwise, something inside you insists. It points, warns, alerts, and almost always that something is right. This intuition does not come from formulas or logic. It comes from within. It's like a silent voice that lives in you and shows you paths that no one else sees. Sometimes you try to ignore it, try to rationalize, but it insists. And when you listen, everything flows differently. The problem is that this type of perception is unsettling, because those who do not feel what you feel tend to doubt. People who live only by facts do not understand those who are guided by the invisible. So you become seen as exaggerated, dramatic, unstable. But you know that is not true. You just feel too much, and you feel before. And this, at many times, protects you. It frees you from situations that seemed normal, but had something wrong. It distances you from people who seemed good, but carried hidden intentions. Intuition is your filter, and almost always it is right. Even when you have no proof, you feel. When something is out of place, your body perceives. The heart warns, the soul closes off. And this is not weakness. It is a type of intelligence that many have yet to develop, or prefer to ignore. You see what lies behind the pretty speech, what is hidden in the gestures. You feel the truth even when it is disguised. And that scares people, because most people prefer the comfort of illusion. They pretend to believe. They pretend not to notice. You cannot pretend. That's why they try to discredit you. They try to make you doubt yourself. Because if you start to believe that you are wrong, they feel safer. But you know, even when everyone denies, something in you confirms. The truth may be ignored by many, but it does not go unnoticed by you. Your intuition is a compass. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. It speaks in details, in sensations, in shivers. And the more you trust, the more it shows you. Even if the world around says it doesn't make sense, inside you, everything is clear. The fear that others have is not of you. People do not fear your face, nor your voice, nor the way you walk or talk. What really scares them is what you make them feel. It's what your presence awakens effortlessly. And almost always, that fear is not even conscious. You do not threaten anyone, but you cause discomfort. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are true. And the truth, when it arrives without warning, can be disconcerting. You enter an environment and suddenly, what was hidden starts to appear. Not because of anything you did, but because your energy reveals. People feel that you perceive more than you demonstrate. They know, even if they cannot explain, that you are not an easy person to deceive. And that is enough to generate resistance, fear, defense. Because no one likes to feel exposed, especially when they haven't even opened their mouth yet. Have you noticed that some people feel uncomfortable just with your silence? That they rush to justify themselves even when you haven't asked anything? This happens because in some way they feel that you see. You see what is beyond appearances, beyond the speech. You see what is behind. And that gaze is frightening. Not because it is judgmental, but because it is too true. Most people are used to shallow relationships, with empty compliments, with convenient lies. And then you appear, without pretense, without filter, without a mask, just with presence. And that is enough to destabilize. The fear they feel of you, deep down, is the fear of looking at themselves. You are the reflection of what is unresolved, of what has been denied, of what has been hidden for a long time. And facing that is difficult for those who live fleeing from their own truth. So they push you away. They try to label you. They criticize you without even truly knowing you. Because it's easier to say that you are complicated than to admit that near you, everything that is false begins to lose strength. You do not need to defend yourself, nor justify yourself, because that fear has never been about you. It has always been about them, about the discomfort they feel when they see themselves reflected in someone who does not fit in, who does not lower their head, who does not participate in the social theater. Accepting this changes everything, because you stop trying to be accepted by those who are not yet ready to deal with your truth. And you begin to understand that your role has never been to please. It has been to reveal. It has been to provoke movement. It has been to touch where no one else has the courage to touch. If you have made it this far, it's because you felt, not just heard, every word. And that says a lot. It says that behind everything you have lived, there has always been something in you that didn't fit. And not because you were weird, but because you were too true in a world accustomed to pretending. Being chosen is not about superiority. It's about responsibility. And it doesn't always come with applause or recognition. Sometimes it comes with silence, doubt, and fatigue. But even in those moments, you keep going. Because deep down, you know that you cannot be less than you are, just to be accepted. You have tried to fit in. You have thought about staying silent. You have tried to act like everyone else. But something always pulled you back. Something that reminds you all the time that you didn't come to repeat. You came to break patterns, to provoke change, to be truth where everyone hides. The world needs people like you, not because you have all the answers, but because you have the courage to ask the right questions. Because you feel when something is out of place. And more than that, you are bothered by it. And it is this discomfort that moves what needs to be transformed. So, keep going. Even if in silence. Even if in doubt. Even if alone sometimes. There is strength in that. And that strength is yours. It was not given by chance. If this video touched you in some way, tell me in the comments. In which part did you recognize yourself the most? Which passage seemed like it was written for you? This exchange is important because sometimes all someone needs is to know they are not the only one feeling all of this. I am George, and I am grateful to walk with you on this journey. Here we talk about what many people feel but cannot put into words. If it made sense to you, the conversation continues in the comments. Let's go together.